Hi, welcome back to Mom Make That Times 2. Do you have a lot of extra blankets that you don't need? Yeah, so do we.
All right. Is there a part of your home that you really wish you had an area rug for? Maybe you've looked at the price tags of buying an area rug and it looked a little daunting? Well, keep watching because we're going to try to make an area rug together using some of those extra blankets. Here are some materials that we are possibly going to need, which I'll talk about in a minute. The first thing you obviously want to decide is what size you want this rug to be. Are you going to make it according to the extra blanket you have or the area you want to cover? Next, let's go over the materials that you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need a shelf liner. You've probably seen videos where they use this. That's what we're going to do today. This is the one from Walmart. This is the one from the Dollar Tree. Don't know if you can tell the difference here. I decided with as large of an area rug as I want to do, it will be more bang for my buck and time to just get the shelf liners from Walmart as opposed to multiple Dollar Tree ones, but go according to what is in your budget and your time. Next, of course, you need some sort of adhesive. I recommend a spray adhesive specifically that says for fabric or a fabric glue. I do not recommend hot glue, especially using anything with holes in it. You need a lot of hot glue and it hurts the hands when you're trying to attach it on. Then of course you need whatever blankets you're going to use. You can also use a sewing needle. This is a very large upholstery needle. You can use yarn to sew it together. I will probably do a combination of both yarn and adhesive spray. We'll see. The best thing about doing things like this with what you have is not only are you going to save money, but also really challenge yourself to see how creative you can be and really take joy and pride in what you have created. Here's some other things that you could use too. I definitely use the needle and thread. You can use a hot glue gun with a special kind of fabric glue. I just really wanted to avoid that. Here I am measuring the area in the living room that I wanted to cover, but I ended up sticking with just the size of the blankets I used. Here are the two blankets I ended up using. They are both, I think, like an extra large twin size or 7.5 by 5.5 inches. Here I am spraying them both together with the Gorilla Spray adhesive, which I think is really for something that you're supposed to put something heavy on top to compress it while it is drying. I was not able to do that, and so it worked, but not really. It definitely did not work when I put it with a shelf liner. It coated it, but it would not make it stick to the fabric. So I ended up sewing pretty much everything. If I had used a fabric spray glue, it probably would have been just fine, but I used that instead. And my go-to is usually to sew things, but do what you can do with your time and your resources. So you'll see that I put the shelf liner over top of the blanket because I wanted to make it according to the measurements of the area I wanted to cover, but I ended up changing this since I decided it was going to be too much work and made it just the size of the blankets themselves. Keeping my littles entertained with a large box always helps. really wanted to make the pom-pom or shaggy effect on the edges of this rug, so I cut out my own maker thing, but I ended up, once I started doing this, it took a long time and I realized the magnitude of trying to make the pom-poms, and I decided after spending quite a while doing this that I was not going to actually do enough of these to make it worthwhile, so I scrapped the idea. So instead, I decided to crochet the edges using just a chain stitch, which I then added onto once I got the correct length. I used yarn I already had in the home. If you can't already tell, our favorite colors in this household is blue, so it was pretty easy to find yarn that was extra and matched the rug. Since I was using several different colors for this chain stitch, I used a handy dandy Dollar Tree basket to separate each color yarn to make this beautiful effect. I then took it back downstairs and measured it along the rug, and this is when I discovered that the Gorilla Spray adhesive didn't quite work for what I needed it to do and what I could do. Should have thought through this better, but I didn't, so I needed to sew it. It was also at this point that I decided to not make it according to the area that I wanted, but according to the size blanket. So I took it back upstairs, got the third blanket, and measured the shelf liner according to that blanket. I then sewed the shelf liner to the third blanket using thread. I got about halfway and decided this was taking way too long. Oh, and I used safety pins to keep it all in place. And at that point, I decided that I was going to use yarn and make big, huge stitches all the way around to keep them in place. And this is showing where I switched to yarn and sewed pretty much the whole thing together by this point. I then added buttons along the edges and the corners. There's a cat there randomly, because I wanted this thing to come apart so they both would be washable. To test this, I put it in the washing machine in cold water, undelicate, no fabric softener, and it actually worked really well. Then I sewed on the finished crocheted border that I had made. I really liked the way this looked. It just made it look so much more finished. Here is the final result. If you wanted more cushion to your rug, you could always add a mattress topper that fits the size, or you could cut it to size. I may do that in the future, especially since I have this in 2 separate layers, but for now it works. So there you go. That is how I made our own washable, detachable rug for our living room. Well, keep watching, because we're going to try to make an area rug together using some of those extra blankets.